that is being discussed nowadays. Let me share my screen. Just one thing, man. I will take one. This is not. This is not the bus. Can you please stop the screen share so that I can share my screen? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay. Oh,
We can see your screen.
okay. Just one thing, the antibody cocktail that I want to mention. This is a very new concept. Sorry, I have taken 5 minutes extra, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to sharing this new thing, because recently a cocktail drug has been come up in the market and has been licensed. This is the thing that I want to share with you. These drugs actually are now recommended or licensed for use in the mild COVID cases, those who have those who have tested positive in the very early phase of the illness. There are two monoclonal antibody, casirivimab, and another is there. Just a minute. No. These two antibodies are nowadays being, but this is these require intravenous infusion, very short infusion for 10 minutes. There are two vials available, but though these drugs are still very costly, but it has shown to be a very good result. So this is the two monoclonal antibody being prescribed or licensed in a way for the treatment of the COVID positive cases in the very early phase of the illness, and it has been shown to decrease the viral load very recently. I do not know whether it is not opening, so I'll just send it to you, mail to the Dr. Onne. So thank you everyone. So if you have any query, I think we can take up the question in the last, isn't it, Dr. Onne? Or would you like to have a question answer right now?
Sir, we can have the question now also. If anyone want to ask a question, we can take one or two questions then.
Okay. So if anybody wants to have a question, I will just share you to this antibody cocktail therapy. I do not know why it is not opening, but this is a very important thing. If anybody has any question.
So I thought I would ask, since no one else is asking.
Madam, definitely.
So, I am, like, it's been crossing my mind as a clinician, because we are routinely involved with patients.
Yeah.
So in the second wave, we are seeing extremely young patients, in their 20s coming in, and they're being very critical.
Yeah.
And in your experience, why do you think that someone gets so badly infected, where they have a CT severity score of 17, 18, whereas someone much older may not get such a severe CT score? And then, like, it's sometimes surprising, because age is supposed to be your biggest support, really. So do you believe that it's repeated exposure which is causing the disease severity, or is it our immune system which is responsible for our disease severity? Because perfectly healthy youngsters are now getting affected. So it's just something that's been, I've been a bit perplexed with recently.
Yeah, madam, I have two views regarding these things. There is no such recommendation or research, evidence-based concept lies down here. But what is most important is that in the first wave, when it started, what actually we have done, we learned that the disease actually affects the elderly people and those who have a comorbidity. So we put them in a secured position at home. They do not come out of the house, and they are well secured. On the other hand is there, so they are by this time, and a couple of them have been vaccinated before the second wave. You can do an argument that it is not, they are well covered, but still not in our country, even in our other country as well, they are going to be vaccinated because the government has a drive to vaccinate the elderly people and those who have a comorbidity. But in contrast, the younger people, what actually they happen, they go out and they have to go to the office, and everywhere they are getting exposed. In between, there is a the false sense of satisfaction that the COVID has done. So we started doing whatever we liked. So I think in that particular situation, they are going to be affected, and somebody has got a single vaccine done, and somebody even they have done the vaccination, the both the doses of vaccination. So they have a false belief. But the ultimately, I think, madam, you will also admit that in the present situation, again, even after vaccination, even after availability of few molecules to treat, again the entire protection lies between these mask and again sanitization and social distancing. So we forgot, I think in the beginning of the second wave, we forgot these three basic things. We were vaccinated, so the younger generation now started thinking, now we have conquered this particular disease. So that is one thing. Second thing, that regarding the immune response, as we have witnessed, even those who have vaccinated with two doses, even after 2 months, 3 months, somebody are having very mild symptom and somebody they suffered. Actually,
That's
one of
right.
my colleagues also had she had a duty in the vaccination center. She got a infection. She herself got two doses of vaccination. Again, after that, she had a very bad clinical course. She was ventilated. Fortunately, she came up and she actually went home a couple of days ago. But we are losing somebody. This is one part. Second thing is that regarding the cytokine storm, we do not know which patient is going to behave. As you can also understand, madam, whenever in a simple viral illness, whenever we're talking about influenza is there in our community every day, everywhere getting affected, but not we are all getting affected in the similar way. It depends upon our immunity. Even you look at the regarding the lower socioeconomic conditions, in that particular situation, the incidence is not that very high. I do not know whether they have a very good immunity because they are in the atmosphere, they're moving around, but we are not exposed to the sun. We are sitting in this field. We are having a lot of comorbidities like diabetes, obesity, hypertension, smoking, and all these things. I do not know, but I think these are the factors that are playing much more in the fatality for these second wave.
I guess so.
I
Sometimes
think
it makes me wonder, why should we eat good food and live in a clean environment? Because apparently people who do not do that seem to have done better than us.
And these down there is a second wave, there is a spread of the disease in the villages. But if you can see in the first wave, the villages were not getting affected, and this time the villages started getting affected. The disease is being carried from the town itself. So not
True.
that they are getting the disease from there itself. So that is the main important thing. And there is a lot of variants are coming off. There is a mixture of
I
variants.
guess.
That is why now we are threatening for the third wave where the children are getting affected again. I do not know, but the basic thing, these three things, mask and the sanitization and distancing, and need to be followed, I think, for next 1 or 2 years.
Yes, that has to be followed.
So that medication now it opens Casirivimab and Imdenidenivab. These are the medications. So there is a story that probably the Donald Trump has taken these cocktail. I do not know at that point of time, it was not disclosed. But this is the medication that has shown to decrease the viral load if it is administered very early stage. But the two vial cost around 1,20,000. So it is very expensive still now. But in the early phase, if somebody presents with the COVID positivity within 2 to 3 days of illness, if somebody takes this two single dose these sort of medication, monoclonal antibody, but that might be promising. A lot of research is being carried out, but still get vaccinated. My message to all my students and their family member, please get yourself vaccinated, and please assure that ensure that all your family member, your father, mother, all are elderly people, everybody should get vaccinated. This is the only way to come out of the crisis. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. This was a nice presentation where we came to know about a detail about the COVID. I hope our students will get lots of help from your presentation. And as sir has mentioned that the slides, sorry, the PDFs what he has provided to me, we will be sharing that
forward
to
this,
our students.
forward this, and the anti-COVID antibody part is also I will mail to you. In between, I would request all my students, if you have any query regarding yourself or any disease related things, so if I'll be there, so if you have my phone number, you can just contact me or send me through email. I'll be happy to, because all you stay safe at home. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your generosity, sir. So we'll be sharing, students, we'll be sharing the presentation to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Sujata.
হ্যাঁ সুজাতা, তুমি তোমার এই দেখলাম। সুজাতা, হাউ আর ইউ? তুমি এখন ভালো আছো?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ স্যার, ভালো আছি স্যার। আপনি ভালো আছেন তো?
হ্যাঁ ভালো আছি। তোমার এটা শুনলাম, দেখলামও তোমার, কিন্তু
হ্যাঁ
এখন তো ভালো থাকো, আর কি বলবো।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, আমার একটা কোশ্চেন আছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি, এই জন্য স্যার বলছি। অ্যাকচুয়ালি লাস্ট ইয়ার আমার বাবার এই মানে হয়েছিল, অ্যাকচুয়ালি আপনাকে বলতে চাই যেটা, যে সে দুবার র্যাপিড অ্যান্টিজেন টেস্টে নেগেটিভ আর দুবার আরটিপিসিআর এ নেগেটিভ হয়, কিন্তু স্যার সিটি থোরাক্স করানো হয়, তখন ডক্টর প্রেসক্রাইব করেছিলেন। তো অ্যাকর্ডিং টু দ্য সিটি থোরাক্স রিপোর্ট স্যার, that CORAD stage was 4. So sir, এরকম কেন যে আরটিপিসিআর এর নেগেটিভ আসছে, বাট এট দ্য সেম টাইম
false negative থাকতে পারে। that is a very good judgment made by your doctor. If you have any symptom like COVID, consider it COVID until proved otherwise. That is the dictum nowadays. I have seen couple of patients, those who have repeated negative RT-PCR, but finally they land up, because already after 5 to 6 days we advise for a HRCT thorax. By this time lung infiltration is there. If you have somebody fever, respiratory illness and saturation going down, be it a positive, be it a negative, get an HRCT done and you start therapy regarding the COVID management. It happens couple of times.
Hello sir.
Thank you. Thank you,
Hello,
sir, for the question.
Thank you sir, thank you sir.
This is actually very good information you have given, sir, that when you have a symptoms of COVID, consider it as an COVID, because there are chances that false negative, false positives will come in the test. Yes, sir. So we'll follow that, and I think Somshu bro,
Hello
you
sir.
can ask the question. You can give the question so that we can forward it to sir, because we have to
Okay,
move
sir.
on with the webinar actually.
Okay sir. Okay sir.
Okay, so sorry for this thing. You can give the question to us. We will forward it to sir, and sir will give the answer to you. Right? Okay. Sir, can you please stop
Sure,
sharing the screen? Then we
Yeah,
will.
yeah, that's the-
forward. Sir, you just have to stop sharing the screen. Sir, in the top you can find. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, sir. So now we'll move on for our next presentation. That is by Dr. Shambhavi Mitra. She is empathic cardiorespiratory from Manipal University and doing her PhD from IIT Delhi. She is assistant professor of Indian ISIC Institute of Rehabilitation Science. We welcome you, madam. You can share your screen.
Thank you, Anvesh.
And I also like to share one more thing, that she used to be our teacher in Nopani Institute of Healthcare Studies in the initial phase of our college, and we are so happy that you have joined us again. Thank you, madam.
Thanks, Anvesh, and thank you, Shabnam ma'am, for giving me NIHS again as a platform to talk.
It's your home place, so you're always welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. And just to add on to what Anvesh said, I was a teacher. To be very honest, I became a teacher in NIHS. I had joined immediately after my master's. So whatever way I can teach is just because of NIHS and their first batch of students who have modeled me to be a good teacher, along with my colleagues. Okay, so the topic, what we are talking today is role of physiotherapy in acute care, meaning when we are talking about in the critical illness. Now, I'm personally working in ICU since the last wave of COVID. And honestly speaking, in my view, what has changed is the precautions and the red flag areas. Other than that, the role of physiotherapy has been the same in ICU. So what we do is the level of precautions have increased. We have got more evidence, and we have got a lot of recognition as a mandatory role in ICU, which even Shabnam ma'am will agree with me that we have been doing for a long time. And now finally it has come. So I'll be going through the slides, and I'll be sharing my experience as an intensive care therapist and how we made a difference in the clinical status of the patient. Now, Pinaki sir has given us an excellent information about the clinical background. Now, when the patient comes in intensive care, we generally have this category of patient, that is the severe patient, right? So when we get a severe patient of COVID-19 positive inside the ICU, we broadly have them as intubated or non-intubated. Intubated meaning the patient will be on mechanical ventilator and will be either on an endotracheal tube, or if the infection has gone for a long duration, then the patient may be on a tracheostomy tube. And non-ventilated can be a non-invasive ventilation, which is BiPAP, CPAP. So whatever we are dealing, the most important thing is we are dealing with a patient with an impaired respiratory status and a bad lung. So whatever we have to do is we have to make sure the lung improves. Along with the lung condition, what it improves is the overall mobility of the patient, the other systems. Now, when a patient is in ICU and a long-term ICU care, the patient will undergo some amount of degeneration in terms of the musculoskeletal system, the neurological system. So we have to take care that this degeneration is not too much, so that once the patient goes from ICU to a step down ICU, the rehabilitation goals are easier met and the patient can go back to community. Now, when in ICU, we can see a non-invasive ventilation. Normally, a COVID ICU looks like where you have few patients on a non-invasive ventilation, few patients on a high-flow nasal cannula, and our age-old mechanical ventilation with intubation. Now, if we categorize these three categories of patients, I would say the worst one goes on mechanical ventilation with intubation. The NIV mask is the midway between if we talk about patients in ICU, we can reclassify them from physiotherapy point of view as mild, moderate, severe. So someone with a mechanical intubation, mechanical ventilation with intubation is severe. Moderate one are who are with a non-invasive ventilation, and the mild ones are who are with a high flow nasal cannula. And another circuit which is being very commonly used in our ICU is the Baines circuit, where the Baines circuit is actually a circuit which is generally used for the patient to the patient, when it's being transferred from one ICU to the other ICU, the Baines circuit is used. But when Delhi had the worst patient fall in the month of April, along with high flow nasal cannula, we had been using this Baines circuit with the NIV. So it's like, if we so if it's a mild patient who's on a high frequency nasal cannula or a Baines circuit, we can go, the rehabilitation can be faster, and we go slow with a mechanical ventilation patient. Now, this is what my son thinks I do in ICU, but this is how we don't treat the COVID virus. So the role of physiotherapy goes as, first and foremost, is improve oxygenation. All our techniques should be in a path where we want to improve the oxygenation, because the very fact the patient is in ICU is because of deterioration in the oxygen status. So the first and foremost role is improve oxygenation. Second is airway clearance. Now, we all know that COVID-19 leads to a pneumonia. So with pneumonia, there may be secretions, and at times there may be a secondary infection also. So if there are secretions, we do not have the alveoli participating for oxygenation. So we have to clear that pathway. So that is the airway clearance. Next important is weaning. The patient cannot be on a oxygen support throughout the ICU, because if the patient is not of any of the three, at least in my setup, what we follow is if the patient is on either on a NIV mask, NIV non-invasive ventilation or an invasive ventilation, cannot be shifted to a step down ICU. So if they cannot be shifted to a step down ICU, we need to work on the weaning aspect of it. And the last most important thing is early mobilization. So the faster the patient goes off the bed, the better is our physiotherapy outcome, right? So we'll go one by one. And the best part of it, the role of physiotherapy has already, now when we talk about role of physiotherapy, the first thing which I would like to say is we had a statement in March 2020 which highlighted the role. And today we have a national consensus on the role of physiotherapy and the level of evidence. So it is evidence-based. It is not my clinical experience or any one of us who's attending this webinar, their clinical experience. It is well evidence techniques, what we can use for attaining these role of physiotherapy. And along with that, we avoid all ICU related complications. And as I said, we need to prep the patient out of ICU. The longer the patient stays in ICU, it will be more deleterious for the patient. Now, this is a flow chart. I have included the reference from the national consensus, and all the senior most people of physiotherapy has made in India has made this consensus statement along with Shabnam ma'am. So this is what we should follow. And honestly speaking, this is the decision flow chart right now what we are following in our ICU. So, and we have got good results with that. Sometimes, obviously, we have not got that. We all know that every two patients do not respond the same way. As I said, mechanically ventilated, non-mechanically ventilated. So again, under mechanically ventilated, we have sedated, minimally sedated. Now, under these, we have to minimize the complication of immobility and chest clearance if secretions are there. This is where we have our maximum role. And then minimally sedated, we need to go for early mobilization and optimize oxygenation. It's like you make the patient sit, your half work is done. So this is what we need to do, and definitely positioning. Now, prone positioning, I'll come with my subsequent slides, where prone positioning becomes a major role. Then range of motion exercises and progression again depends on the patient's hemodynamic tolerance. Now, what is this? A very big term, hemodynamic tolerance. Basically, we need to look at the vitals. We need to work in the safety zone for the patient so that we do not overexert the patient. In case we overexert the patient will not be cooperative in your next session. That is the last point here, the level of cooperation, right? We really want to be very enthusiastic and we want the patient to walk on, want to make them to sit on the first session. At times it is not possible. So to gain the level of cooperation, maintain the hemodynamic tolerance of the patient and get them working. Next comes the non-ventilated patient. Now these non-ventilated patients, generally only the patients with HFO, that's your high flow oxygen, are generally in ICUs. Low flow oxygen and room air are more at the ward areas where you can really have a very aggressive physiotherapy and a faster physiotherapy to get them off the hospital. Now with a high flow oxygen, the patient's oxygen demand is there. Now the advantage with a non-ventilated patient, a non-mechanically ventilated patient, is that the patient, you don't have to restore to our passive techniques. We can get the patient do more of active techniques. For example, how do we say passive and active? Passive is what we generally follow with sedated and paralyzed, that is percussion, vibration, and positioning. Here also we do positioning, but we can enhance, we can encourage the patient to do breathing exercises. We can get them to do spirometer, taking into taking into consideration that there should not be any aerosol generation, and we can get them to do active limb movements, get them to mobilize. Simple thing of walking around the bed itself can make a lot of difference to the lung mechanics. Now I'll come to the subsequent slide and tell you how does it make a difference to the lung mechanics. Then with low flow and room air, definitely it will be a faster, where we can have a 6-minute walk test done and a more individualized program. So basically our aim is, as an intensive care unit therapist, will be, if my patient is here, we need to send the patient till here. That means if the patient is sedated or paralyzed, we need to shift the patient to at least a low flow oxygen to make them go out of ICU. And believe me, this second wave had not been very easy to follow this path. But yes, few successes, more failures, but I guess we'll learn that way. Now, therapeutic positioning. Now you will see a lot of, in my subsequent slides, we'll have level 2B, 1B and all. This is the level of evidence. So the lower the number, the higher the rate of, higher the evidence is. Now we all know prone positioning. Now it's like being, every person in the second wave knows very well the importance of prone positioning. But what does the prone position do actually? This is what it does. If we talk about physiology, it is very simple what it does. When you're lying down, what happens is the dorsal lung, or the lung which is there over the bed, has the maximum amount of fluid, or I would say the secretions getting accumulated. Now what we have done, we have made the person go prone. That means that, as you can see in this figure here, you can see this dark purplish thing. Here is the accumulation of secretion, and we make the patient go prone. It only has a small area of accumulation, and we get a better aeration. Right. So this is what prone does. It is normal physiology, which I guess over the years we have been following. Prone position had been the position of choice in neonatal ICUs as well as for ARDS patient. Where you do see fluid is gravity dependent. So it will go to the area which is dependent. So when you are lying down on the bed, when a patient is lying down on the bed, the lungs will have the maximum accumulation at the part of the lungs which is there in contact with the bed. The moment you make